Rise and shine,
Jesus.
Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
How loud is that?
Not that I wish to imply you have been sleeping on the job. No one is more deserving of a rest.
Commentary
and
mode is
all
where the devs
effort
talk
in
about
the world would have gone
what they were
to
thinking when they
waste
made this
until,
game.
Well, let's just say your hour has come again. The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. So wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
I love that guy. G-Man. I don't think he was user properly met the Smoking Man in the X-Files yet, but I'm pretty sure that this game took inspiration, at least a nice chunk of inspiration, from the X-Files Smoking Man for the G-Man.
I didn't see you get on.
Alright, here we go. Commentary.
I'm Gabe Newell, and welcome back to Half-Life 2.
It's
been a
Gabe.
long 20 years since its release. In this anniversary update, we've tried to respond to as many of the community's requests as possible. And while this might not be the absolute number one...
Make Half-Life 3, you motherfucker!
I often hear how much people would like a commentary mode, so we're excited to find...
No, we'd like Half-Life 3!
Not only was it a challenge to remember many of the details of Half-Life 2's
Everybody start emailing them.
but it's not easy to crack open decades-old computer code and wonder what the hell you were thinking way back then. Along with the dev commentary, we've cleaned
You
up
were on a
bunch
lot of
old
drugs,
bugs
Gabe. That's
and
probably what it
tried
was.
to leave things in better shape than we found them. And at least this time, we had the luxury of knowing how things turned out in the end. To listen to a commentary node, put your crosshair over the floating commentary symbol and press your use key. To stop a commentary node, put your crosshair over the rotating node and press the use key again. And please let me know what you think. You can reach me at gaben@valvesoftware.com. Thanks, and have fun.
This brave motherfucker is asking to be reached. Half-Life 3 when?
It might be hard to remember it now, but back when Half-Life 2 came out, small objects in games, like these bits of trash, were usually static. As in, they didn't really move, or if they did, it was in a very simple way. If you were lucky, they might break apart into some sprites if you hit them. One of the goals for this initial train station section was to really make it clear to players that these kinds of things were properly, physically, actually being simulated in Half-Life 2. They could be picked up, dropped, thrown, broken, moved by other forces, you name it. Here we're starting with just a small thing, showing that trash is being blown by the arrival of the train, or, more specifically,
but it's stopped.
An invisible volume that's triggered by the player leaving the train.
Train station. The beginning of a Half-Life game has a big job to do. We have to introduce players to a new world while teaching them how to interact with it. Players need to quickly grasp what's happening, who the key players are, what threats they face, and how they fit into it all. Above all else, it has to be as fun and interactive as possible. Nailing this takes a lot of iteration and playtesting, especially on the small moments that make up a bigger picture of the game. In this section, we'll highlight some key moments, game design problems, and a few playtests where things didn't quite go as planned.
Welcome to City 17.
Sweeping Vortigaunt. Another key moment of storytelling, and another nod to the physics system. Here, we're
he hasn't been sweeping, he's been walking backwards and forwards. He's not doing his job.
A big shift from their Half-Life 1 role as enemies. Like
Cyclops.
so many moments in the train station, the Sweeping Vortigaunt came
Can't be
from
mean
a
to
constant
Vortigaunt.
hunt for ways to show characters interacting naturally with the physics system. Why just tell players Vortigaunts are friendly now, when you can show one casually sweeping the floor and knocking around some simulated objects?
He did a little tap and then he went over
hey,
there.
Don't shoot me this time around, like someone willing to tidy up.
Jesus, that's kind of dark.
Metro cop shoving citizens. We've only walked a few feet and we're already got problems to solve. We're introducing the Metro Cop, an enemy that eventually we're going to ask players to kill, and giving you a glimpse of the world they're stepping into. It's a simple, clear moment that shows the relationships between the Metro Cops and citizens, and by extension, the player. At the same time, we decided to reinforce the existence of the core physics simulation, showing the way in which NPCs can casually interact with objects in the world. Seeing something like a suitcase knock into another and dislodge was pretty novel back then. These moments at the train station where we combined multiple goals.
Citizens.
Citizens.
When it came time to
Bill Van
design the
Buren.
human citizens of City 17 and the world outside the city, we chose to include a variety of races, ages, and genders. This not only provided narrative context for the Combine's enslavement of all of
Hey, it's
humanity,
Robert De Niro, look.
but it was also important to us that anyone
Hey, Rob.
playing the game could see themselves represented in the resistance,
Still making movies? Huh?
with everyone on Earth united against the Combine.
Fucking De Niro over here.
While we found a number of candidates
Hey,
to use
that's a
as
nice
reference in
meatball.
creating these citizens through our daily lives and connections, we ultimately
There's young
resorted
De
to
Niro.
advertising in the
Taxi
Seattle
driver
Times
De Niro.
classifieds to
Old
reach
De
the
Niro?
desired
Well,
range
mid
of
De Niro.
faces that we'd envisioned.
Young De Niro.
They never leave. You never see them.
What De Niro do we got over here? Ate a few more pies, De Niro. Hey, what up?
Welcome to City 17.
Dr. Breen again?
Natural
Dr.
storytelling.
Breen again.
To achieve our world building and storytelling goals throughout the train
Loneliness has
station,
followed me my whole
we
life.
needed a natural way to deliver dialogue without
Everybody's
it
a De Niro.
feeling too
Look at
gamey
this.
or requiring tutorials. We noticed players often approached NPCs to get a closer look, so we turned that into an opportunity for the NPCs to acknowledge the player and deliver their lines. This kept interactions low-key, which was essential since the
Low-key.
citizens aren't exactly too cheerful or lively. The simplicity of this approach also aligned with one of Half-Life's
Yeah,
core
apparently to keep
storytelling
moving
goals,
people from place to
making
place,
the narrative responsive to the player's interests.
so that they never have time to make friends
Some
or
players
form
want to
bonds.
dig into every detail,
It's the whole
while
purpose
others
of these
just
train
want to know
stations.
what to do next.
They constantly
Giving
keep
players
people on the
control
move,
over how much story they want
just
to
to
engage
demoralize
with,
them.
without it blocking progress, is a goal we always try to maintain in a Half-Life game. Plus,
early tech planning. Shipping a game always teaches us a lot. We finally get to find out which choices we made were good ones, and which were ones we should do differently next time. So after Half-Life 1, when we sat down to start thinking about what kind of sequel we could build, we had all kinds of player feedback to digest. From it, we tried to build a master list of things that Half-Life 2 was going to focus on. We didn't try to design a specific player experience. Instead, we found it more useful to approach the question from a technological standpoint. Black Mesa's security guards and scientists had worked well. What could we do if we pushed it really, really hard on characters? We liked our interactive storytelling. What could we build that would allow us to do even more of it, and a greater variety? The exploration and interaction with the Black Mesa was compelling to players.
storytelling. Creating a sense of immersion was a core principle in our approach to Half-Life 1's storytelling, and it led us to the self-imposed constraints of never, or at least very rarely, taking control away from the player and of keeping the player's avatar silent.
What's up? You can't hit me? No?
These limitations made storytelling more challenging
Missed
at
again.
times, but we felt it was important to stay with them for
This
Half-Life 2.
guy's a scrub. Look, no
Our
reactions.
hope was that by maintaining these principles, we'd push
Look at him,
ourselves
you
to
can't-
explore deeper, more interactive storytelling.
Am I supposed to be intimidated by you? Huh? Huh? Oh, you
I
bitch!
thought
Wait till I get you.
so much of City 17 that
I'll see you later,
to
buddy.
establish my
Buddy.
in the citadel so thoughtfully provided by our benefactors.
Our benefactor.
Now, City 17, my home.
Yo, citizen.
Whether you are here to stay or passing
Go on, I know you want to try. I know you want to try. Go on, try.
welcome.
Whoop. Ah, scrub.
It's sacred.
Characters.
Don't forget to throw the trash at the
Half-Life 1,
motherfucker.
security guards and scientists could best be described as archetypes, not individuals. They were abstractions of characters
Oh.
that matched the visual fidelity we
Open
could
that door,
achieve
you.
over time. But as our technology improved with Half-Life 2, we saw an opportunity to move beyond abstractions. The increased visual fidelity of the character models, combined with improvements
that
in
with you.
animation, made us believe we could focus on creating individual characters, people you would actually care about. We allowed ourselves to write real dialogue and have characters deliver it in a way that felt realistic enough for players to not
I can't
think
hear
about
Barney.
them as pawns in a video game.
No, Barney.
And hopefully propel
Shut
our
up,
narrative
Mark
forward.
Laidlaw.
In 2001, a couple of years into development, we were energized by
How tall
Japan
am I?
Studios'
Almost 2 meters.
Directed by an animator,
Perhaps.
it blew us away with its reliance on characters as the key connection to the player, giving us the courage to keep pushing forward.
It's me!
Freeman!
It's you, scientist!
Warning. Yeah, you and me both, Doc. He was about to board the express to Nova
Wasn't Barney that would have
Prospect.
tattooed Dr. Breen on your penis. True.
I'm thinking.
Very true. That's a horrific
Alex is around here somewhere.
realization.
I have a better idea how to get him here.
Well, as long as he stays away from checkpoints, we should be okay.
You would have had
Listen, I gotta
Dr.
go,
Breen's
Doc.
face
We're
on my
taking
ass
enough
cheeks.
chances as it is.
Very well. And, Gordon, good to see you.
Okay, Gordon. You're
Okay.
gonna have to make your own way to Dr. Kleiner's lab. Oh, man, that's what I was afraid of. Get in here, Gordon, before you blow my cover.
Blocking tutorials. At times, we need to be certain the player has learned something, and the standard method,
I
at least
learned
in
nothing.
game development, not in life, is to trap them behind a gate of some kind, where the player must demonstrate their knowledge to be able to continue. We try to disguise these gates as something natural, so it doesn't feel like the game has come to a halt. Of course, time, resources, or the environmental context itself
I wonder how
can
many.
make that
I think
choice.
there's a lot at the start, but
In
they
this
get a little
case,
bit
we needed to teach the players how to move objects, so a simple stacking puzzle seemed like the best
more
solution.
spares.
We tested more complex designs, but they ended up being less effective at teaching the actual thing we needed the player to learn.
Blocking tutorials 2. There are 2 failures of note in this tutorial. First, players can break it by tossing all the boxes out the window, which is obviously not great. This leaves them stuck and
You
unable
don't say,
to
can you?
continue, which we consider a game-stopping bug that must be fixed. A clean solution would have been to tweak the window or crate sizes so that the player could fit through but not the crates. The problem was that we really only caught this problem late in development, and making even a simple change like that can have unpredictable game-breaking consequences, and right before launch no less. Also, this issue was purely theoretical. We'd never actually seen players do it. Our playtests of the design space had gone smoothly, with players learning what they needed and moving on. So changing the room's design this late in the game could have
Blocking tutorials 3. The
Oh.
second failure in this
Oh, no,
tutorial
I'm
space
stuck.
is a case of misteaching, where we accidentally teach the players something we didn't intend. This can be hard to avoid without extensive playtesting, since the game is always
I can't even throw it.
even when it's not by design.
God damn, Gordon, you're nothing
We
without the
cover a more
HEV
extreme
suit, huh?
example of this later in
Jesus.
Train Station. Some cases of misteaching are critical to fix, like
fall damage. Teaching players how to do things is an
Aha.
essential thing for the game to do. But for them to make confident decisions, they also need to understand fall damage. Teaching players how to
Fall
do
damage.
things is an essential thing for the game to do. But for them to make confident decisions, they also need to understand the more subtle rules. This small moment
here we
covers
go.
2 of those. First, it shows how
They'll
far
throw
the player
bottles at
can
this
fall
dude.
without taking damage. Second, it introduces a bit of the game's
Fall
vocabulary,
damage.
how the game will communicate with them. Players often worry about taking fall damage, but they also worry about taking a step that they can't take back. So here, a welcoming crate to land on signals that dropping down is safe and it's the way forward. And when the crate breaks, it reinforces the
pissed.
physics simulation, and is likely the first time players will see that larger objects can be broken
I'll
apart.
brick him. Oh.
pick up that can. Contextualizing tutorials, creating a story scenario in which they happen, lets us do more than just stop the game to teach players something. We get to add narrative value to the moment.
What a
Here,
scrub.
teaching the player how to throw
Oh!
objects is combined with a narrative setup that gives them a choice in how to respond.
Oh!
After watching the Metro cops casually abuse citizens, it felt right to put the player in a similar position next. If they had opinions on how the citizens should have reacted, now they get to express them. Playtesting showed most players either complied or refused the request to pick up the can, but some tried to avoid the confrontation entirely. Others would comply initially, then retaliate after feeling humiliated. By keeping the moment relatively
you can't
constrained
climb.
in both terms of player actions and the space
Get
itself,
humiliated, bitch.
we could generally react appropriately.
Playtesting. Playtesting is a core part of how we make games. We can never fully predict how players will respond or what they'll take away from what we've built. So we test to learn and hopefully improve. During a playtest, we don't guide or talk to the player, even if they're stuck.
What the?
As it's extremely unlikely that we'll be sitting there next to the player
What
once
happened
the
to
game
all these?
ships. Our goal is for testers to forget that they're playtesting altogether and play as if they're at home. Any interruptions risk skewing the data, so we only step in if there's a bug that's blocking progress or more.
Early in a Half-Life game, One of our goals is to make promises to the player, giving them a sense of what to
get
expect
back
later
inside.
on. From movies to TV shows
that
and
looks
books,
cool.
all great entertainment
Jesus, the
does
amount of
this in
commentaries
some
around
way,
here.
and video games are no different. The promises in a Half-Life game can take different forms. Some are simple, like offering just a glimpse of something intriguing. Others are more
His name was
layered,
Charlie Brown.
like the interactions
Hey,
with
Charlie
Metro
Brown.
Cops. By putting the player in a powerless position against them, we set the stage for that future moment.
What do you think of these commentaries? Yay
Retaliate.
or nay? Are you enjoying them? Or do you want me to start playing the game?
The Citadel.
Normally.
We wanted the player's first view of City 17 to highlight the Citadel and its dominance over the city, representing the Combine's complete and total power over humanity.
All damage. Yes.
It also needed to serve as a clear goal. Even at the start, you can see where your journey ends. But despite its massive size,
just pooping out
playtesters
people.
often missed it.
Precinct 13.
A player's sense of depth and scale can be tricky on a computer monitor. If you've played any games in VR, you'll likely have noticed that scale feels more natural. Anyway, in this case, the Citadel's position above the player didn't help things either, which may be because FPS games train players to focus straight ahead.
I might
or
be
down
hopping
at
yet.
feet. To
Almost.
improve the chances of players taking in the Citadel,
I can't
we
be
added
hop.
birds
I
flying
need to
towards the
learn.
structure. A subtle trick we've found helps guide the player's view.
Yeah, I can't be up. Barely.
Exploration.
Exploration.
After being herded through the train station by Metro Cops, we wanted to give the player a chance to explore. This plaza offered several ways to interact with citizens, Metro Cops, scanners, and the city infrastructure. We aimed for these interactions to continue building the world without
following me.
explicit tutorials.
Stop.
And we refine them until they work
Freak.
naturally, without
Leave
any
me
real
alone.
training.
Oi. Albert. Very persistent. Stop you.
Ropes. One of the things we noticed in all of the reference images that we gathered for
just say
City
ropes?
17 was that there were cables and wires everywhere, and that they were a large part of the high-frequency detail in view. We loved the look of these older European cities enmeshed in the haphazard web of modern life.
Aha,
We
you
felt
can't
like
keep
we
up,
needed a
you wanna jump
solution for
backwards.
cables, ropes, and similar elements, and we wanted them to be dynamic. Our level designers were eager to create plug puzzles, and connecting a cord to each plug helped players better understand the mechanics. Early in production, we built a rope system and iterated on it throughout development. Under the hood, each rope is made of multiple segments stretched between the two endpoints, and they can move independently.
They're getting pissed now. Look, they're teaming
Each
up.
segment acts
They're
like a
getting
spring
pissed.
and responds to forces in the game, such as a gentle wind or the passing of a Combine gunship overhead. When rendered, each segment is shown facing the camera and is bump mapped, which is crucial for giving the ropes a realistic, rounded appearance.
Playtesting Anecdote 1. One memorable playtest reminded us that we can never be certain what players are thinking or what lessons they've taken from their experience. This tester, after playing from the start and stuck trying to open a door, spent several minutes going back and forth between the game and the keyboard settings.
What a dumb
When
ass.
we asked what they were looking for, they said they were searching for the inventory controls, thinking they could use an item they'd picked up earlier to unlock the door. While we'd seen
What
them
items?
collect
You
and
can't
drop
pick up any
several
items.
physics objects,
What's he mean?
they'd misunderstood what was happening. The tester believed that pressing the use key while holding an object moved it into an inventory because the item dropped straight
What a
down.
dumb ass. Who'd have
We knew
thought
it
that?
was just gravity, but their assumption wasn't crazy. Some adventure games of that era did slide items into an
that
invisible
era.
inventory that way. We explained there was no inventory, and the playtest continued.
We explained that he
Later,
was in
we
fact
considered
a
whether we
fucking
needed
idiot.
to address this, but since no other playtesters had the same confusion,
He wanted to laugh there,
and
did
all
you
of our
hear?
potential
We
solutions were more
explained.
heavy-handed than necessary, we decided it was an
We explained
outlier
that he was a
okay
moron.
to remain unaddressed. It served as a good reminder, though, of how
Served
even
as
the
a good
most
reminder
subtle,
that our players are
overlooked
actually
details
morons.
can mislead.
Strider.
Strider.
This simple moment is a promise that you'll encounter this enormous thing later
Oh
in the
yeah.
game.
We didn't look at
Even
him.
an uncomplicated scene such as this really does require a lot of playtesting and iteration because
Ow.
of Half-Life's
The
goal
fuck?
of not taking control away from the player.
It's almost like I'm being
As
oppressed
you can
here.
imagine, it takes a lot of small tweaks to ensure that as many players as possible are looking at the right place at the right time here.
Yeah,
the
sure I
street
was.
layout and the Metrocop
You didn't
scene
have
are all
fucking
set to guide the
Bilbo
player's
Baggins
gaze,
here following me
perfectly
around.
framing the Strider when it appears.
Early game exploration. Up until this plaza, the player likely hasn't had to think much about their path, as it's
I
been
haven't had to
clear
think
and
at all, trust me.
straightforward. But here, we wanted to encourage exploration, which meant making the way forward less obvious, which can produce a feeling of being lost or, worse, confused, as you might expect. These kinds of shifts can be tough, especially early in the game, when the player is still learning the game's guidance cues. Here, it's further complicated by force-fielded checkpoints, which allow NPC citizens to move through, but restrict the player, leading many playtesters to believe that there was a way to bypass
I get to practice bee-hopping while listening.
Ultimately, it was extensive testing that helped us find the right visibility for the alley forward, using lighting, layout, and a wooden crate, an object players have already used as a sign they're headed in the right direction. All to
closed captions. During Half-Life 2 development, we were approached by folks interested in accessibility who encouraged us to go beyond the subtitle system we had built for Half-Life 1.
There's
they
subtitles?
requested a full-featured closed captioning system to capture all game sounds, not just dialogue. This turned out to be a much tougher challenge than expected. Half-Life 2 produced a wide variety of sounds, and categorizing them for captions was crucial. Prioritization was also key. Dialogue needed to stand out, and it had to be clear who was speaking. Ambient sounds, like distant combat, were important for setting the mood in some levels, but less so if there was an enemy shooting nearby. Our level designers also often use sounds in different contexts, so sound might require captioning in one area, but not in another. Ultimately, every sound in the game ended up with its own caption data, formatted almost like a small version of HTML, giving us control over the visual style of each caption. As with the audio files, the caption data was too large to keep in memory, so we built an asynchronous caching system to handle it efficiently.
These are a lot of commentaries. Jesus, look at the amount of them.
Crate Baby. This small baby doll has a long legacy. During the long months of internal testing, some of the team turned it into a challenge, a way to make the 47th playthrough of a game a bit more fun. They'd place the doll inside of a nearby blue crate and see how far they could carry it throughout the game. After Half-Life 2 launched, the community started carrying Crate Baby as well, adding their own stories and rules to the mix. A few years later, while working on Episode 2, this was the inspiration for the Little Rocket Man achievement, where players had to carry a garden gnome dubbed Gnome Chomsky throughout the entire episode. Chomsky even made a comeback for Left 4 Dead 2 in the Garden Gnome achievement, where players had to carry him through the Dark Carnival campaign. These kind of interactions with players are some of the most rewarding parts of game development. We design games with theories in mind, but you never really know where things are going until players get their hands on it.
You never know where it's going till it's gone. Aha.
Physics simulation. Even though we began Half-Life 2 with a functional third-party physics simulation, it still took us years of additional work.
Well, never trust me with a baby.
Itself and its integration
put him back in there.
Until we felt like we could meet our designers' ambitions. Maintaining a shippable level of quality and performance was something we knew would be a challenge along the way.
It's harder than it looks, okay?
The issue was actually figuring
Trust
out
me.
what to simulate and to what extent.
Oh, my baby.
We can't simulate everything, and even if we could, there are game design reasons
They were
why
teaming
the
up
experience
there.
is better when we don't. In many cases, we deliberately bend the simulation to improve the player's experience. These adjustments usually go unnoticed.
We won't take
because
all
they
these.
align with player intentions.
We'll take one of these.
and we'll go.
Playground. When we discussed ways to highlight our physics simulation around the city.
Okay, we won't be taking that with us.
Materials and shaders. Half-Life 2 came out in the midst of a significant shift in 3D graphics, where the industry moved from textures to materials and shaders. In Half-Life 1, every surface had a texture, essentially an image wrapped onto the polygons of the surface. But by Half-Life 2, just 5 years later, every surface had both a material and a shader.
He's going into gun down a family.
That's
That's nice.
That customized how the surface was rendered. The material defined properties for how the surface behaved physically and how it responded to gameplay features. It
Oh,
also
I
held
see a missing
references to textures
texture.
and other parameters for the shader to use for
that.
rendering. As a result, artists and designers had much more control over how things looked and behaved. However, this came with a trade-off.
Missing material. Early on in developing
so
our
that's supposed to be
low-level
intentional.
graphics code, we realized it would be difficult to spot polygons that weren't rendering due to a missing texture. When this happened, you typically just see black where the polygon should be, which could easily go unnoticed in darker scenes. To catch this bug more reliably, we created an error texture that would be visually unmistakable and generated automatically whenever a texture failed to load. This gave rise to the now iconic purple and black checkerboard texture which has since taken on a life of its own, well beyond Half-Life 2.
Oh no, now we're really gonna get it.
That's enough of him.
Field of view. In Half-Life 1, we used a 90-degree field of view, or FOV, which was fairly standard for first-person shooters at the time. But during Half-Life 2's development, we grew unhappy with it. With our game's focus on characters, we'd put extensive effort into detailed facial and body animations. But the 90-degree FOV just didn't allow players to get close enough to fully appreciate that detail.
Cube maps. With the addition of materials and shaders, we needed a solution for reflective surfaces like glass and steel. These surfaces had to know what to reflect, but in 2003 we couldn't do any of that rendering in real time.
No,
so we developed the
TV!
cube
TV
map
is
system
bad for
for
you.
pre-computed reflections. A cube map is a set of 6 images on the inside of a cube, capturing the environment in every direction, like a panoramic photo that surrounds you on all sides. Level designers placed invisible marker entities throughout the levels, and during map compilation, we generated a cube map at each marker. Then, during
the raid. The section ahead, where the Metro cops raid the apartment while the player is inside, took a lot of iteration to get right. Generally, we design Half-Life to let players set their own pace, since people move through the game in a variety of ways. Some players run, ignoring anything that doesn't seem like a threat, while others methodically poke at everything. So, whenever we need to force a specific pace, it's always a challenge to ensure players perceive that pace and naturally play along. Since this is the
Play
first time
along,
we did this,
man.
we had to
The Raid 2. In addition to making sure the player felt the pressure to move forward, we had to ensure the raid itself was foolproof. There couldn't be any way for the player to avoid it or double back past the Metro cop. The real challenge wasn't that players would try to break the scene, but that many would panic and run in random directions once they realized they were under threat for the first time. This moment required
This moment required you to shut the fuck up and let me run. Oh.
Health and no HUD. The rooftop chase sequence posed a unique design challenge. We didn't want it to be a true gameplay obstacle, and our best case was for players to make it through on their first try. But we still wanted to create the sense of real danger, where players felt legitimately threatened if they didn't keep moving. The challenge was that without the HEV suit, players don't technically have a heads-up display or HUD, which means
Well, you
no
do
way
have
to show
health,
damage or remaining health. After some experimenting, we created a special health system for this section, using a red glow around the screen to indicate damage. Players reacted as we hoped, taking it as a sign to keep moving, and the chase unfolded as intended.
Playtesting Anecdote 2. In the upcoming section, we needed the player to be knocked down so Alex could save them. With limited time and resources, we simplified the encounter as much as possible, reusing existing systems and letting it play out like a normal combat sequence, with a custom event triggered when the player died. After a few playtests to fine-tune the timing, we moved on. But as we got close to shipping, we encountered a problem with the playtesters who quick-saved constantly and immediately hit quick load whenever they thought they'd failed. When a Metro cop hit them, they quick loaded before Alex could step in.
Damn, she took
repeating
them
this
all
more
out.
than 10 times before we asked them to stop.
You got your ass whooped.
At this stage of development, in the final bug-fixing phase, we had to limit ourselves to fixing only game-breaking issues, since even small changes could risk breaking something more important.
Alex. Nailing Alex's design was a big challenge. We wanted the player to both respect and care for her. Saving Eli was a key player goal midway through the game, and we knew that getting players to care about that goal would be easier if they also cared about Alex and her relationship with her father. We intentionally designed, wrote dialogue, and cast a voice actor for Alex to be savvy, capable, and relatable within the Combine-controlled world, while also making her attractive and charismatic. We aimed to avoid the objectification, exaggeration, and hypersexuality that many games of the 2000s featured, as we felt that would undermine our goals for her character.
NPCs on elevators. We often spend a significant amount...
Interactive storytelling. When we started on Half-Life...
Funny, you showing up on this day in
On that
particular.
little day. Elevators.
Kleiner's lab. Kleiner's lab was the first piece of storytelling we worked on, and the one that took the longest to figure out.
There's a hell of a lot of
In
commentary.
addition to its role in launching the player into the game, it eventually became the
We still struggle with this to this day.
development team in terms of
These devs do
storytelling.
be yapping.
As we began building our characters,
Maybe I
and
shouldn't
narrative
watch all these,
delivery
huh?
around the player, many questions
ruining the
arose,
immersion.
all of which felt like major risks for the game. Would players be able to extract the important information from the scene? Could we get them to care about these characters? How would we support players with varying levels of investment in the story? How costly would it be to...
Oh God. I'm not listening to all these. No way.
Lamar,
Oh fuck.
come out of there!
Uh-oh, everything all right, Dr. Clark?
Lamar!
Hello, Alex. Well, almost all right.
Can we
Lamar has
deactivate them? I wonder. Options. Let me see if I can deactivate them. Don't think we can necessarily. Yeah, I was all aboard for listening to them at first, but they really are yapping. They truly are yapping. Do I get any field of view options? Is that they were on about? No, it looks like.
know better. I'd suspect Barney of trapping and.
I suppose if there's anything we're particularly interested in.
Freeman. It really is you, isn't it?
I found him wandering around outside. Bit of a troublemaker, isn't he?
We owe a great deal to Dr. Freeman, even if trouble does tend to follow in his wake. I must say, Gordon, you come at a very opportune time. Alex has just installed the final piece for our resurrected teleport.
I can't take any credit for the breakthrough, Doctor.
Nonsense. Your talents surpass your loveliness.
Let's just see if this thing works, okay?
Well, it's here.
Lab interactivity. In our choreo scenes, we have the player trapped for a bit, allowing us to focus on the characters and narrative. To accommodate different players, some deeply invested in the story, others unable to stand still for more than a second, we felt like we needed a constant stream of interesting details on screen. We scattered narrative elements throughout the environment,
He was
ensuring
right.
some were interactive, essentially toys for the player to tinker with. In some cases, we embedded further storytelling into these, like the cactus mini teleporter hinting at the upcoming teleporter failure. It was a delicate balance. Too much visual interest could distract players from the core of the scene. Ultimately, Kleiner's lab played it safe with interactivity, as it was the first major choreo scene.
Oh,
Later,
look at that
in
bald
Eli's
spot,
lab,
magnified.
We explored it more deeply, ensuring the characters themselves paid attention to what the players were tinkering with.
Damn it, get it off me!
Get it off me!
Lamar!
Lamar!
I thought you got
Voice
rid-
actors.
Don't you
To
go tell me
create
about the
more
suit?
responsive and multidimensional characters and
The worst you might do is attempt to couple with your head fruitlessly. Get that thing away from me! Here, my pet. Hop up. No, not up there.
Not a good idea.
No, no. Careful, Lamar. Those are quite fragile. Oh, fie. It'll be another week before I can coax her out of there.
Yeah, longer if we're lucky.
Barney, you're not an animal person.
You're not an animal, Barney.
Well, Gordon, go ahead. Slip into your suit now.
Slip in. Oh, yeah.
Well, Gordon, I see your HEV suit still fits you like a glove. At least the glove parts do. I've made a few modifications.
What are you trying to say?
I'll just
Huh?
acquaint you with the
Baldy?
essentials. Now let's see. The Mark V hazardous environment suit has been redesigned
Yeah, I'm
for
listening.
comfort and utility. Oh dear.
Doc, we don't have time for this. At least get that suit juiced up, Gordon.
Good idea. There's a charger on the wall. I've modified your suit to draw power from Combine energy outlets, which
Combine.
are plentiful wherever they
did you say?
patrol.
Meanwhile, let's get this show on the
Combine
road.
with me. Let's bind and bind away. I don't even know what I'm saying. Beep, beep, beep. You still had a lot to say in this room, huh?
archetypes. We wanted to create narrative links.
Come in and play with everything.
Monitors. We use monitors a lot for storytelling in Half-Life 2.
Isaac, are you there?
Monitors.
Alex's kiss. It's a small moment, but Alex's kiss on Eli's cheek was important. Eventually, we're going to ask the player to save Eli, and we want them to care about him. To build that emotional connection, we needed to show the warmth and affection between Alex and Eli.
We're all set on this end.
Then let's do it.
Let's see. The massless field flux should self-limit, and I've clamped the manifold parameters to base and LT orbifold. Conditions could hardly be more ideal.
That's what you said last time.
Hey, yeah, about that cat.
Initializing in 3, 2, 1. No fiddlesticks. What
Scene?
It's in the way. Fiddlesticks.
You gonna let Gordon throw the switch?
Gordon, go right ahead.
Woo!
Very good. Final
Very good.
sequence. Commencing.
You're a master scientist now. You know how to flick a switch.
Okay.
She got excited. Excessively so.
Interactivity. At certain points in our choreo scenes, we require the player to take action. Beyond simply giving them something to do and keeping them engaged, these moments served a few key purposes. First, they allowed the player to catch up, even if they've been distracted by something else in the environment. The scene could
Or your
simply
commentaries
pause
where you
until
keep
the player
yapping.
completed the task, ensuring they were back and paying attention. At the same time, it let us position the player where we needed them, which was useful for...
I can see your MIT education really pays for itself.
All right.
Yeah, Barney knows.
Your turn.
Gee, thanks.
You got a college degree for that.
As soon as you're in position, we'll send you to Eli's.
And not a moment too soon.
Imagine how quick this game would be if this teleport didn't fuck up.
Excellent. Initializing in 3,
Initializing.
2, 1. Barney, if you'll be so kind.
Good luck out there, Gordon.
Yes, indeed. We're ready to project you, Gordon. Bon voyage.
Project
Best of
me.
luck in your future endeavors. Final sequence. The hell? What is it?
It's your freaking headhopper.
Freaking headhopper. Ah! Oh.
I'm not sure.
Let me out! Let me out!
Something is drawing him away.
What's the meaning of this?
Breen, you little bitch.
How did you
Come here.
get in here?
Ah. It'll peel you like a potato.
Don't worry, Gordon.
There he is. Oh, we're losing it again.
Hold me out.
I'm all but certain it was Gordon Freeman.
Yes. Ah. There's always a bigger fish.
He didn't come through.
Then where is he?
Behind you.
Beep, boop, beep, boop, boop,
Shut
boop,
it down. Shut it down.
Whoa!
Out of here. Run! Get down out of sight. I'll come find you.
I'm naked, and they're taking pictures of me. Ah. Go away! Don't be glooping me, you bastards. Where I'm going, you won't be able to follow me. It's a shame we still have this loading thing. You think they would have changed that?
Onium extraction. Another critical tool we built into face.
The Citadel's on full alert. I've never seen it lit up like that. Get out of
Lit
City
up like a
17
Christmas
as
tree.
fast as you can, Gordon. Take the old canals, right? They'll get you to Eli's lab. It's a dangerous route, but there's a whole network of refugees, and they'll help you if they can. I'd come with you, but I gotta look after Dr. Kleiner. Oh, and before I forget, I think you dropped this back in Black Mesa. Good luck out there, buddy. You're gonna need it.
You're gonna need it, buddy.
At the time of Half-Life 2's release, most first-person shooters gave the player a gun or a melee weapon right off the bat, but we opted to start them empty-handed. Without a weapon, it was easier to train the player on the more novel ways they're able to interact with the world, and introduce them to our story. We wanted the player to transition from fugitive to the aggressor, and arming them at the right time created that moment naturally. By the time they finally get a weapon, they're done running away. They say sometimes the best way to win is to walk away, but we all know that's not true. The best way to win is to run towards something while shooting at it.
Bullet audio. If there's one thing we're sure of, it's
audio caching. Another problem we
There's
ran
one thing
into
we're
was the
sure
sheer
of,
amount
it's
of
audio caching.
With all the gameplay sounds, music, and dialogue, we had too much audio to be able to store it all in memory.
Physics sound. Getting physics to feel right for the player meant that the sounds produced by physics had to sound right too. As humans, we're all used to how objects and materials sound during
automating DSP. All the sounds the player hears are processed through our digital signal process.
Let me stop you there. Get it to look a lot like Christmas.
Metro Cop scene. This is another scene designed to make it clear that the Metro Cops are the bad guys, except this time the player has a weapon and can finally do something about it. That something comes out of the barrel of a gun. We knew we needed the player to feel righteous, and this moment was part of creating that.
I feel
the Metro
righteous.
Cops are still human, unlike the rest of the Combine in the game, so we felt like we had to go the extra mile in making sure the player's actions felt like justice and not just wrath.
Staircase. There are situations throughout the game that stem from simple and quite straightforward design goals, and this staircase features two of them. The first was to frame the Citadel as it awakened, showing the player they stirred up the hive.
Awakened?
The second was to showcase our ragdoll system. While it's standard now, in 2004 it was still a novelty to see bodies tumble realistically.
Whoa, stutter. Stutter guts.
City 17 awakens. The early train station section was designed to make the city feel indifferent toward the player, as if Gordon is just another nameless, faceless citizen, ripe for subjugation. But during the tenement raid and rooftop chase, the city identifies the player as an anomaly and starts to stir. Now, with the player as the aggressor, the city fully turns its attention on them. The Overwatch PA system, first heard during the raid, played a key role in delivering this message. If players listen closely, there's a lot of information about the city's awareness. Even when players didn't pay attention, though, the audio treatment still conveyed the emotional message we were aiming for.
Yeah, 2004. Same time as GTA San Andreas. Or not long before, at least. The graphics are still fucking fantastic. Phenomenal. Well, I suppose they have been updated over time as well, to be fair. They've actually been updated with the times too. So it's not exactly how it looked when it first came out, I guess. Not a 1-to-1 at least.
Overwatch. During development,
Overwatch.
we generated the
Shit
Overwatch
game.
voice using a free text-to-speech tool.
Ooh.
But as we neared shipping, we realized we didn't actually have the rights to use it, so we held auditions with voice actors to find someone who could match the qualities we liked in the generated lines. It didn't take long before we found Ellen McLean, whose delivery was exactly what we were looking for. In her sessions, we played the generated lines for her to mimic, though in her own style. She was a bit sarcastic at first, given that she was being asked to replicate such a robotic delivery, but years later, when she returned for her iconic role as GLaDOS in Portal, she'd found a way to creatively integrate that tone into her performance.
Lambda caches. Technically, the first Lambda cache is at Kleiner's lab, but this is the first one that plays.
Scanners. Scanners present
Pistol design. The standard pistol is the workhorse of the game, functioning not only as the first range weapon you learn to use, but also as a method to interact with physics and destructible objects at a safe distance for the entirety of the game. To help make it feel more responsive and fun to use, the pistol employs a refire mechanic that's unique to it in the game. The gun will fire as fast as the player can click their input button, meaning that they feel an instant response to their input, and the faster
It's
they
also
can click,
designed
the faster they
after
can shoot.
Lara Croft's guns from the Tomb Raider movie, apparently. So I've heard. Or USB 45. Ow. Oh, go away. Go away, go away, go away. Haha, scrub. Ooh.
Glass. When designing early levels where there are fewer mechanics in the player's toolkit, we found that it's just as engaging to spotlight new technical features instead, as we did here with breakable glass. For the shattering effect, glass was divided into a grid of small squares, allowing us to track which were intact or broken, and to blow at larger sections once enough squares were no longer connected. Each square was rendered with a unique texture based on the status of its neighboring squares.
Helicopter Peekaboo. The
Helicopter
attack
Peekaboo.
helicopter as central antagonist was something we wanted to develop throughout the entire chapter. The relentless chopper became a character in its own right. Here,
iterative passes. Some chapters of the game, such as the on-foot sections of the canals in Ravenholm, were developed in multiple passes by different cabals. We found that handing off maps in this way led to greater variety in the experience, and a higher density of interesting moments, as each cabal added their unique touches to the maps. In the on-foot
you should be dead. That was a headshot.
canals,
Come on.
the first pass established the art direction and the player path, along with the broad strokes of the experience and some major beats. But the team-wide alpha playtest identified insufficient tension and a somewhat monotonous experience here. In our second pass, we returned to the map solely focused on creating that tension and greatly increased the density of moment-to-moment scenarios.
Water shader. The most
Water
complex shader we
shader.
made for the game
Oh,
was the
Bashir,
water
this is
shader,
Bashir's area.
which made full use of the
He loves
newly
water
available
physics.
programmable graphics cards. When water was present, the scene was rendered 3 times. First, the underwater world for refraction,
3 times
second,
the rendering.
a reflected view, and third, the parts above the water. When rendering the water surface, we blended the refractive and
interstitial scenes. As playtesting progressed, we often found areas where players lost track of their
Boxcar Bill. This small scene originally featured 2 human characters.
This is the Freeman, the Combine.
I am the Freeman, the Combine.
Look, we're just a lookout for the Underground Railroad. Main station's right around the corner. They'll get you started on the right foot. Meanwhile, let my Vortigaunt friend here give you a jolt to get you going.
Touch my penis. Do I get a shot-killing Chinese meal?
We really can't afford to get noticed.
He didn't give me nothing.
Catch you down here, it's
What?
bad news for the whole railroad.
We serve the same.
Alright, ball patch, let's go. We serve the same. In action.
Particles. For the source engine, we invested in expanding particle and special effects technology.
Wow.
This allowed for more realistic and complex particle movement, as well as more intricate shapes and shader effects. In particular, adding bump mapping to our particles features made a huge difference in the volumetric look of them. While later iterations of the source engine include a powerful particle system editor, the original version used in Half-Life 2 relied on handcrafted effects, each requiring a programmer to meticulously build the effect.
Barnacle introduction. Because barnacles can be confusing when first encountered, we wanted to introduce them in a way that showed players their behavior at a safe distance. We decided to do that through a nature show style predator-prey scene. But, as always, scenes like this took a lot of iteration to get players to reliably see.
I'm gonna need you to stop, sir. Thank you, sir. Bump mapping. Creates the illusion of depth and textures by angling like those illusion street drawings. Oh. Did you do the commentary for this game? Was that you? Did I skip your part? This is Station 8. We heard 12 go down and out. I think Ian just doxed himself. He's one of the Half-Life 2 deads.
Railway stations. Repeat. Civil protection is
Confirmed.
coming down on underground stations. We're already getting refugees from 9 and outlying.
Shit. It's time to go. Time to go, Baba Joe.
Mounted gun gallery.
Ah!
There are a few things going on in this scene. The turret firing at the breakable crates behind teaches players not to take the threat head on and instead utilize the sewer route to defeat it. And when they reach the turret, players enjoy using it in a shooting gallery with a wave of Combine soldiers and dive-bombing scanners. We also begin to introduce the missile-firing Combine APC that pushes the players along and will show up again later in the chapter.
Over where?
Keep going, friend. That station was raided, but there's others up ahead.
Oh.
I'm gonna stay here in case the
Hello.
others come through.
I know a thing or two about game devs since I spent time modding some game. Oh, what games have you modded? Shooting the ghoulies, huh? The symbols, Mason, what do they mean? Let me catch them in the act. No, I thought we could explode that. No, explode. Let me live. Run out of oxygen. Help! Down here, you bastard. Fight me down here. I want your gun. Thank you. Bloop, bloop, glorp, glorp. Oh! Some WC3. Maps for HOM 3. Total War. Ooh.
Running around a corner into a new area just to see enemies standing there is always awkward, and it makes the world feel less alive and more like a shooting gallery. So we were motivated to introduce enemies into combat spaces in more interesting and dynamic ways that would communicate planning and intentionality on their part. As if these soldiers had a plan for Gordon even before he showed up. The Metro cops in this scene jump down into this space via scripted sequences. And later in the game we use rappelling in a similar way. It doesn't matter where they're coming from in reality because players end up telling that story to themselves. We found that in the end, combat should have a story implied in its setup. An ambush, a surprise, a surge, an assault. All of these scenarios use much of the same enemy AI, but all felt different to playtesters.
Didn't think I was going to leave you alive, did you? Son of a bitch.
Protection team alert. Evidence of anti-civil activity in this community.
Barnacle bowling.
Barnacle.
This is a satisfying example of how a bunch of design elements can come together in a matrix of interactions to create a memorable scenario for the player. We got barnacles, our physics simulations, slippery mud surface properties, and last but not least, explosive barrels. You've encountered all these on their own, but they're able to snap together naturally to create a moment we called barnacle bowling.
Let me down. Well, you're a bit preemptive there, weren't you? Oh, look at that. I spy a barrel. Can I shoot it enough times to blow it up? Aha! Foiled! You bastards. That you? Did you order that? Oh! Help! Ah! You're very brave. Shooting a bee while I'm in the water. Oh, look at those effects. Look at the bubbles. The barrels were undoing, my friend. Woo! Woo! Hot, hot, hot! Stop it. No more out of you. Plant. Tail. I remember the first time I came across this, thinking I was big brains. Back on the Xbox. You'll put blocks on the seesaw.
Physics in puzzles. Often, simpler mechanics encountered earlier in the game are pulled from more complex ones as a form of training.
Ooh.
The teeter-totter puzzle, the first physics-based contraption
teeter-totter,
was actually derived from a later, more intricate washing machine puzzle in the canals. The teeter-totter uses the same principles of mass and ramps, but in a more straightforward way that players can directly interact with, helping them understand the game's physics and making later puzzles easier to tackle. This puzzle also highlights the analog nature of the physics system, with the placement of cement blocks and the player's own weight both factoring into the solution.
Here we go, the big helo.
Combine attack helicopter. Players have had glimpses before, but here's where we fully introduce the main boss of the Canals chapter, the Combine attack helicopter. This chopper relentlessly destroys a player's cover, forcing them to move forward or risk being gunned down. We wanted this sequence to feel tense and menacing, with the helicopter seeming far too powerful to confront directly, and maintaining that intent.
Normal maps. Half-Life 2 was developed during an exciting time for graphics, as the first programmable shader-supported graphics cards were hitting the market. Using this technology, we became
Don't ever
one
do
of
that
the
to me
first
again.
games to
What did you
implement
do?
normal maps, a
Took the
technique
textures
that
away.
enhanced the lighting on surface geometry. The normal map described the surface's roughness, allowing each pixel of a polygon to be lit in a way that made surfaces appear bumpy.
Great. Don't ever do that to me again. You freaked me the fuck out. As you can see, I've always struggled with ladders. I was trying to interact with that and I picked up a barrel out of nowhere.
Dangerous.
Oh.
In Half-Life 1, we had a set of autosaves throughout the game, hand-placed by level designers and triggered when the player reached some specific moment or position in the game. This ensured that the game was automatically saved for you as you traversed through Black Mesa's corridors. In Half-Life 2, we found ourselves needing a new tool. The problem arose in some of the more complex arenas we'd built. Some of those encounters would last for quite a while and features multiple sets of enemies. Others were long, sprawling mixes of exploration and combat without any clear separation between the two. We never want an autosave where the player is in danger of dying right after loading the game, because that could place the player in a death loop. If you played enough games back then, you definitely found yourself in this situation at least once. So unless we deliberately crafted pauses in every arena's flow, there wasn't always a safe place to put an autosave. After some experimentation, we implemented a feature called Autosave Dangerous.
Oh shit,
this was
I
a
threw
level
away the
designer
barrel.
tool that combined an autosave with an associated time frame. When triggered by the level designer, it immediately saved the game, but kept the save off to the side, not available as a save game to load from. If the player then stayed alive for the specified time frame, then the save would be committed and used as the most recent autosave. This allowed level designers to put an autosave.
Soundscapes. In Half-Life 1, ambient sounds were placed by hand and then individually tuned.
I think we're going to cut him out. Yeah, we are. Oops. Alright, I think we get man hacks here, do we? Man hacks? I hate these bastards. What happens if we destroy all the support teams, I wonder? We die? Maybe not. Man hacks!
Get in here. Civil protection is onto us.
Manhack Matt. We called this guy Manhack Matt. We wanted to give players the sense that hundreds of citizens inhabited the hidden nooks and crannies of City 17. At this point in the game, it had been a while since players had seen a citizen, and we wanted to explain the significance of the manhacks, which was the first physics-based enemy that we created. In the original concept, there was a video arcade in the city where players could fly manhacks around to attack virtual citizens. Eventually, players would discover that the manhacks were real, and so were the citizens. As the Combine occupation became more fleshed out, this idea of a video arcade became an odd fit and eventually fell by the wayside.
Did he survive?
Close call. Thanks for your help.
You're welcome. Let me go to the other side here. He got hidden over. Oh! That's my only means over. Cool. Cheerio, buddy. Have at you bastards. Annoying motherfuckers. Aha! Woo! Not explosive. No, it's not. I'm not accepting any shite from you. Off my ass. Once a vent rat, always a vent rat. Ow! Bastard. Can't interact with that door. Get in, will you? What's he doing? Struggling to get in. Oh! Big mistake, Boko. Hell has. MP7, motherfucker! Why don't they throw something down here? No? Guess not. To do. What are you doing in this place again? I'll get over there somehow. How would you get over there again? Why am I not remembering this? Why don't you remember? A hole or something? How'd you get through this, Kip, again? Can I get up on this? Oh. How am I supposed to open that again? Brain, work. No. Oh, there it is. I knew there must have been an opening somewhere. Let me breathe. Hey, what up, Super Lamb? How you doing? I'm playing Half-Life for the third time from the beginning. This time I have to finish it. I have to be held accountable for this shit. Got like I've got like 2 saves in sand traps. Both unfinished. Oh! Oh, he's eating me! I thought he was dead. Fucking bastard. Go away, you! Ooh. Things are getting rightly out of hand here. I can do that too. Cheeky bastards. Toasty balls. Oh, that hurts. Coincidentally. Geez, how many bullets do they take? I feel like they used to take 3. Why do they seem to take more? Oh! You want to do this in one sitting? You'll run on fumes, yeah. I always make it to sand traps and then drop the game for some reason. Very strange thing. This time I must commit to a full finish. Probably not going to do it in one sit though. It's Sunday after all. So, probably not possible to do that. Back up on your pipe. Go this way. Can I get up here or what? Okay. Maybe not. Can I get up this way? Fair enough. It was not meant to be. What am I doing? This is supposed to be the way to go. Or not. Perhaps not. I'm trapped. Trapped! Yes, this is the way to go. Oh, I'm about to run out of oxygen. You Billy of silly. Fair enough. Away you! I'm trying to get in here. A bit odd. Physics are a bit fun.
Explosive Barrel Factory. This room, filled with an absurd number of exploding barrels, inspired some good-natured debate within the team around how far to push the plausibility of our world. Frankly, one exploding barrel is probably too many in regards to realism. In the real world, barrels really shouldn't explode, even if you were to shoot them.
True. Then that wouldn't be fun, would it? Barrels must go boom. Not yet. Must be able to make it over there, haven't I? No? Jump, Gordon! Okay, don't. Whatever. Pretty sure he's supposed to be able to make that jump, and in fact, I think we have to. I'm fucking glued to the ladder. Let me off. This is gonna take a while. Okay, there we go. Misa clumsy. Misa clumsy. Who am I to be saying? Misa clumsy. There he be. You must use the valve in the valve game. Who'd have thunk? More of these bricks. Fucking man hacks. Most annoying thing they ever created.
Rising water. The floating bridge and wooden spools here introduce the concept of buoyancy as a tool for the player. In this case, it's not really a puzzle. It's just some fun for the player interacting with the physics system. But later, we revisit this gameplay element in the canals to raise a ramp for the airboat.
About to die. ¿Eh? ¿Qué pasa? Oh. ¿Qué pasa? What do we do here?
Rendering systems. In the early 2000s, we couldn't afford a general-purpose renderer with the broad capabilities of a modern engine. Instead, CPU, GPU, and memory limitations required highly specific solutions to rendering challenges so we could squeeze every bit of performance out of a player's hardware. As a result, Half-Life 2 actually has 3 different rendering engines. One for world geometry, another for outdoor terrain, and a third for dynamic entities like characters and objects. These 3 renderers had to support a complicated matrix of features: collisions, ray traces, decals, offline lighting, visibility calculations, and more. On top of that, each renderer needed to support DirectX 7, 8, and 9. The differences among these DirectX versions were significant, often requiring different data storage and rendering approaches. They even used different programming languages. Altogether, we essentially had 9 different renderers, each needing unique solutions, and getting them all to look consistent was one of the most challenging tech problems we faced during development.
I think this way is the right way to go, isn't it? Might be. Yeah, it's the right way to go. 'Tis the right way. I can hear the hacks. I can hear the man hacks. Still. Echoing throughout the place. Bastards. Come and find you. I don't need it.
GPU Wild West. During development, we faced numerous decisions influenced by our choice of minimum spec, the least powerful CPU and GPU combination that would still deliver a good experience for customers. In the early 2000s, there was far more variety among GPUs than today, with wide differences not only in speed, but in fundamental approaches to rendering.
Dynamic shadows. With a focus on character and physics objects, we felt a
Game's
dynamic
pretty
shadow
long.
system was
Despite
necessary
the end
to
it was
render them
rushed.
all in all
Yeah.
their glory.
Then we get
In
more episodes.
2003, GPUs didn't have any dedicated shadow capabilities that they have today, so performance was a tricky problem. Our eventual solution went something like this, running every frame. First, find all the objects that might have shadows in view, Doing this meant figuring out which objects were in the view frustum, or slightly behind it, to catch entities that were off-screen but whose shadows might end up on-screen. Then we'd render a black shadow version of each one of those objects into a single shadow texture. For that render, we'd use the lowest level of detail model for the object to be as fast as possible. Finally, we'd use the shadow texture to draw each of the shadows into the
head crab canisters. Used head crab canisters are seen later in Ravenholm, so we decided to show them here to tell the story of how they're used by the Combine. The story is that the Combine have weaponized Zen fauna to use them against the humans.
Weaponized
Burrowed
Zen
head
fauna?
crabs was added as a new feature for this section that was expanded into a larger area that is
Make it
meant
up
to show
there.
a citizen
Yeah.
shanty that was decimated by the head crab assault.
Oh? I feel like there's a way up there. Oh, I don't think you're actually allowed in there. The head crab humans sound horrifying. I think the fucked up thing is that they're still alive and still very conscious of what's happening. Technically. I think that's supposed to be the lore behind it. When the head crabs take over them, they actually leave them conscious. Like, they're aware of everything that's happening to them. Which is pretty fucking messed up. That's why those screams for help are actually real. They're actually genuine screams for help. So it's pretty fucked up. Little space chickens. I think that's all of them, right? I want to say that is all of them. Ow. Hazardous radiation. Detect.